Sabbath Shalom, everyone. I'm daughter Abel. Debriah Hawkins. I'd like to start serving you as the priest is starting very soon. I'd like to start serving you as the priest is starting very soon. Shalom, everyone. I am daughter of Yisrael Abel Sariah, and I want to serve you as a priestess starting very soon. Welcome everyone to another wonderful Sabbath services here at the Great House of Yahweh. Please get ready to continue learning about Yahweh's great plan for mankind. And now it is my honor and privilege to introduce you to the sons and daughters of Yisrael Abel now entering the sanctuary. And now I'd like to turn it over to the priest of the house.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. You can be seated for a few announcements. Attention, everyone. Please help us to conserve on water usage and bathroom items such as toilet paper at all facilities. Attention, all men's security. We will have a meeting after services in the Kahan's conference room. Friendly reminder, if you have used tithe and offering receipts, if you have requested tithe and offering receipts, please check the men's and women's Sabbath tables each week to pick them up or inquire at the South office. Sisters, please check the bulletin boards and look for your name on the new Sabbath schedule for the Moon of Abraham. Enjoy your takeout dinner and supper today at the Lamplight Cafeteria. We will serve Abel's barbecue chicken for dinner. For supper, we will serve burritos. The Lamplight Cafeteria will open after services and close at 5:30 p.m. Please pick up worker meals between 5 and 5:30 p.m. Our new moon celebration will be held third day evening, Melchizedek 29, or 7/21 on the Roman calendar. The cafeteria will serve worker meals until 5:30, but the grill will close at 4 p.m. The concession stand will open at 5 p.m. and will remain open until everyone is served. We will be serving sweet, spicy, sticky chicken, fried rice, and an egg roll. Please remember to bring your own plate. We have special desserts and ice cream. Our family film will be shown at 6 p.m. in the sanctuary. That's all the announcements I have. I'll turn it over for the Sunday Israel for opening prayer.
If you'd all please raise your hands to Father Yahweh. Our Father in heaven, whose name is Yahweh, with his Son, Deacon Barzilai, come to my head, Quantani Ashang, being seated last as a witness, usually Balkans, and in 3 sinners' rooms. I pray to allow pastors to get the full use of his conscious mind. I pray to allow the great Kanye to be released from prison. I pray to allow all those who are in your house but being held captive to be released. I pray to bless the work and the workers. I pray to give us the strength and courage to push through our tests and trials. We thank you for this day. We thank you for this opportunity to come before you today. We ask that you help us be a servant to one another and not a hindrance to your house and your great work. And make us who you want us to be, because that's who we want to be. And in unity with the great body of priests who passed Israel Abel Hawkins, through your most Ahab, Son, Yeshua Messiah. Hallelujah, praise Yahweh.
Most holy and righteous Heavenly Father Yahweh, this is Quan Shamel Hawkins, begging permission to come before you, Father, as seat of the witness Israel and through Yeshua the High Priest over the house of Yahweh. Father, with these your people called by your name, your sons and daughters, I do thank you for each and every one. Pray that we continue to help one another enter into your kingdom, and that we all, as a body, Father, in unity, help pastor, bring forth this work to all the earth and everywhere beyond, Father. We thank you for your mercy, for your kindness, for the long suffering you've endured while we come to perfection. And we do thank you for that, Father, and pray that you continue to strengthen us, make us strong and courageous, to lift up pastor, to give you honor, to give Yeshua honor and pastor honor, and to never, ever forget why you brought us here and why you chose each and every one of us. We love you, Father, and I pray that our prayers are acceptable in your sight as this incense goes up before you. And I do pray, Father, that each and every one of us continue to be healed in mind, body, and in spirit, and you continue to meet each and every one of our daily needs, and that we help, through the law, Father, everyone have everything that they need. And I pray that we are ready. We love you, Father, Ahabya, and give you all honor and glory in Yeshua's name, the seat of the witness, Israel, and through Yeshua the High Priest. Hallelujah, Yahweh. Praise Yahweh.
If you all remain standing, I'll turn the services over to the daughters of Yahweh.
Shalom, everyone. Please pay close attention to this whole service. There's going to be tons of knowledge and understanding that will be coming to you. This can only be achieved from this service at the house of Yahweh. Prophecy, laws of health, and gematria all added up to one fantastic lesson. And with this, I'd like to turn it over to the first teacher.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Please be seated. Okay, for today, to start with, I wanted to go over some numbers that I had given you the last time I spoke, when I put daughters of Yahweh in the gematria. And the first number that came up was 1873. And in the Hebrew Strong's Exhaustive Concordance, Red Letter Edition, 1873 comes from 1862, which means pearl of knowledge. Now, the pearl of knowledge is given to us by Yahweh through the authority of Yahshua Messiah, given to us by the chosen branch, Yisrael Hawkins. So we need to listen to what everybody is speaking on today so that we can get those pearls of knowledge. Now, 1873 in the Greek comes from 1909, which actually ties us to the prophecy of the Yeketskia's temple in these last days. But it also means to hearken, to hear, to listen, to hear with favor. So we want to actually listen. We want to hear what the words are saying, but we actually want to listen so we understand what information is giving to us. Now, the last number, and this was the one that I really enjoyed seeing, was number 194. And in the Greek, it comes from number 1 and from 2767, and it means undiluted, without mixture. Now, I had spoken on the original sin that Eve had actually chosen to do, which was to heed what Satan was telling her and partaking of the tree of evil and righteousness. And that started the ball rolling. 6,000 years later, we are seeing the effects of that. But I wanted to give you an idea of what this means. If I could have my first slide. I did a Yisrael Says search. And the Yisrael Says search that I had done was on the State Board of Health laboratories that the overseer worked in the 50s. 1951 exactly was one of the dates he gave me. And this one says Deuteronomy 28:18. Cursed will be the fruit of your body, the produce of your land, the calves of your herds, and the lambs of your flocks. And I want you to notice what I have underlined. In 1991, CE alone, medical records show that there were 129,000 cases of syphilis, 620,000 cases of gonorrhea, and 43,672 cases of AIDS that were reported to the medical authorities. Now you're saying, what does this have to do with pastor? Okay, in 1928, Dr. Fleming actually was the person who was credited with discovering penicillin. He did not have the money to continue on with the penicillin that he discovered, so that did not take place until 1938. Get the date. After the overseer was born, 1938 was when they first started to actually work with and produce the penicillin that they use for the diseases. The very first civilian patient to be successfully treated with penicillin was in March 1942. If I could have my next slide, please. The 6th book of Israel, chapter 21, verse 100. This is the overseer. We only had 2 diseases when I was working in the State Board of Health laboratories in the 50s. 2 diseases, that was syphilis and gonorrhea. If I could have my next slide, please. The 7th book of Israel, part 1, chapter 19, verse 26. He says, but of course I fell for the lie years ago that syphilis could be cured. And they claimed that it had already cured the girl. And I knew this years ago that it's hidden in her body. And he knew this years ago, and he asked the question, are we sure? And nobody could answer me then that they cured it. If I could have the next slide, please. This is the lie that he was talking about. This is an advertisement in 1944. If I could have the slide, please. Gonorrhea is cured by penicillin in 4 hours. That's what they were telling the people in 1944. If I could have my next slide, please. In the 11th book of Israel, part 1, chapter 16, verse 6. Now get this. Here's one that proves the point that I'm trying to get the people to understand. Gonorrhea, they thought nothing of it when it first started making waves. We were trying to get the news out to the soldier boys. If I could have my next slide. This is another ad that they were showing. It says, penicillin cures gonorrhea. They have free penicillin for your treatment. If I could have my last slide, please. This, as you noticed, gonorrhea has 820,000 cases today. It's actually been treated as a national threat alert, yellow. These are the headlines that we are facing today. This is the seventh plague. If I could have my slide, please, the last slide, please. Okay, these are the headlines that I've taken from yesterday's headlines. Friday's coronavirus numbers, Southwest Florida breaks daily record with 30 new deaths reported, 11,466 cases. There are so many deaths in Texas and Arizona that Texas and Arizona are bringing in refrigerated trucks to store hundreds of bodies after the coronavirus surge. Now, this seventh plague is directly related to the gonorrhea that they said was cured in 4 hours. And with that, I turn it over to the next speaker.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. You can be seated. If you'll turn your books of Yahweh to page 500, it's Proverbs chapter 6, verse 23. And it says, "For the commandments are a lamp, the law is light, and reproofs of instructions are the way of life." Now, we all have seen a lamp before, right? And a simple lamp has three parts. It has the body or the vessel, it has the oil, and it has the wick. The oil is fed through the wick to bring up a burning light. Now, you cannot have just a lamp without light and see, right? If you're in darkness, it won't help you. You'll just be like those who don't have the lamp and the light. So, going back to this scripture, it says, the commandments, which we know there are 10, the 10 commandments, they are the lamp. The law, which is 613, is the light. It's the details of how this body is supposed to be conducted. The oil, as we all know, is the golden teachings that come forth from the house of Yahweh through the last day's anointed witness, the one sent. As Yachanan 6:29 says, believe into the one sent. And the wick is symbolically us, the people, the house of Yahweh, the body of believers. Now, when we absorb this oil, the teachings from the one sent, and we implement it in our lives, then it brings forth the light to the people who see us. Remember, we are surrounded with a great cloud of witnesses. And it's our actions that show forth that righteousness. It's our actions. As Yachanan, we don't just believe like the worldly preachers tell their people, only believe. We do the work. Yachanan 6:29 says, this is the work. This is the work of Yahweh, that you believe into him whom he has sent. And that word work is a doing word. It's a verb. You're supposed to act on it. And Jacob 2:26 says, for just as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is also dead. So we have to show forth our works to prove that we believe the one sent. Now, going back to that scripture, now both the oil and the wick, they are combustible, they can burn up. And neither one can do without the other, they need each other. Now, if the wick is ignited, it will flare briefly, and then it will die off. It will utterly be consumed. But if there is oil, then the wick will last longer as it absorbs the oil. So in the same case, we, the called out ones, we need that oil, the golden teachings that come forth from the one sent, the law and the prophets, and the peaceful solution, which explains the law much in details. You know, the concepts such as respect, self-control, patience, consideration, you name it. Without these, we will ignite within just a few minutes. We will be triggered in a way, we will be sparked in a way, agitated, fueled, and we'll briefly die off. But by acting on our own emotions instead of acting on the facts, as we all know we should. Remember Hosea chapter 4 verse 6 says that my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. It's this knowledge, the oil that comes from the one sent, that they rejected. And by doing so, it's what led up to what Isaiah 24 verse 6 says, that the inhabitants of the earth are banned and few men are left. So this scripture, Proverbs chapter 6 verse 23, for the commandments are the lamp, the law is a light, and reproof of instruction are the way to life. That reproof of instruction is how the instructions which reprove us for our sins and our errors and lead us to the way of life. And that's what the one sent is doing to us, teaching us, so that we don't continue in the path of sinning. For my geometrias, I have commandments are a lamp, and the first number 201 means talkative. From 559, a commandment. And it's 201 in the Greek, it means an audience room, place of hearing. From 202, to listen, to hear. If you turn to Yeketskia chapter 5, Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 1, Ecclesiastes chapter 5 verse 1 says, keep your foot when you watch your steps when you go to the house of Yahweh, and be more ready to listen. Remember that word, listen. Be more ready to listen than to give the sacrifice of fools. For they do not even realize that they do evil. So that word listen there. And the other number 1206, it means mud, mire, probably the same as 948, which means to bleach, be white, fine linen. It's going to make us into fine linen, which you know, those are the humility through the teachings of the one sent. The other geometry is the law is light. And you can see that what first number 153 means the arm, and we know that's the law, the arm of Yahweh, the strength of Yahweh, the laws of Yahweh. And 918 is the other number. It means to gap open, to mend a breach, repair. And we're going to repair this evil way that the world is teaching the people through teaching them Yahweh's way. And the other number 1277 is the other number. It means firm, plenteous, rank, fed from 1254 to creator. We know that Yahweh is the creator, and he's feeding us this golden oil through the one sent. The other geometry, believe into the one sent. Believe into the one sent by Yahweh. 340 is the first number, to restore, renew. He's going to restore us to the way of Yahweh. 2040 means a toiler, figuratively a teacher. He's the greatest teacher in the world. He knows it all. He knows Yahweh's way. We don't need to experience. We just need to come to the place that Yahweh has chosen and sit at the feet of the priest to learn of his way. 3112 is the other number, means Yahweh will establish. Yahweh will establish us if we humbly obey the teachings that come from the last day's witness. This golden oil that we so much need to bring forth the light, the laws of Yahweh to the world. And with this, I'll turn to the next teacher.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Please be seated. So, how many of us notice all the extraordinary things we've been able to do around here? Some superpowers we got. Anyhow, so what we're experiencing right now is the use of our subconscious mind leaking into or combining with our conscious mind. And evidence of this is, for example, when we're doing the work of Yahweh or communicating with each other, you think of one thing you want to do or need to do, and several other things come right behind it. Different options that you have. This is what we're taught in the Peaceful Solution, to stop and think. So it's become so much a part of us, and with this test that we've gone through in the trial,
Yahweh is giving us certain abilities, and we should notice it any time now. So back in Genesis 1:26 is where Yahweh first mentions mankind, right? So we can go to Genesis 1:26, and we see this is part of Yahweh getting us ready to handle this authority that he promised back in the beginning. So it says, "Then Yahweh said, I'll make man in my image according to my likeness." And if you look at the side note on likeness, it's side note F, and it says, oh wow, okay, loud now. Consider, compare, think, and use similitudes. And this is what we've been taught in Peace Solution, to stop, think, consider our options, and proceed with the right choice. So this is programmed into our minds through practicing it and doing it every single day. But this is what Yahweh, he blessed us with, a great mind to think and compare just like he does. That word compare, Pastor uses it a lot in his writings. He says, this scripture now, go here and compare this. Okay, so that was Yahweh's goal for mankind. That is Yahweh's goal for mankind, to make him in his image and likeness and to rule as he rules. But a lot comes before Yahweh just handing mankind authority like that. A lot of training goes on. So in Genesis 3, we see that Satan was able to influence mankind to be evil as the gods and become in their likeness and image. And in verse 14, you can see the word ability is what we want to harp on right there. Your ability to bring forth life from the dust will be taken away. And the ability is what Yahweh had placed in each and every one of us. Remember how Pastor told us that Adam and Eve actually had the use of their subconscious mind. And it's named in Scripture a lot. And Yahshua, even in his parables, he spoke about it. I remember a sermon Pastor gave a long time ago about the parable of in Matthew 25, about the lamps, the 5 foolish virgins and the 5 wise, how the 5 wise had enough but oil and learning and understanding. He explained how they couldn't give because they would have depleted themselves, something along those lines. But I encourage you to go back and listen to that sermon. So in the responsibility unit, chapter 2, on page 25 through 26, I encourage you to go read that, because it explains to us how the mind is divided into 2 parts, the conscious and the subconscious, and how what we do every day on a conscious level is influenced by what's in our subconscious mind, and how our conscious mind is able to forget, but the subconscious mind never forgets, and it records everything. And you can put that together with everything Pastor has written in this book. Can we show it? There is someone out there that's an incredible book. There's never a dull moment reading this book right here. But in chapter 2, Pastor has a chapter here called The Incredible Human Potential. And he explains about the use of the subconscious mind. Without this power, mankind is limited. He's limited, and for 6,000 years, he's shown that he is not able to rule as Yahweh rules because he gives into sin. And how Yahweh is the one who created mankind with this subconscious mind, so he also has a set time when he intends it to be let used by beings to whom he will give permission to do so. And that is us, if you can get what we're saying here. Yahweh has a set time for this subconscious mind to start to be used, and that's us in these last days. He's restoring that power little by little, and to encourage us to remember everything Pastor has taught us on it, we have some numbers here. And we have our Father most able, 828. Yahweh is most able to do anything because he has a mind, the subconscious mind, and full use of it. And he made us with a mind just like him, and he wants to give us that use as well. Mankind limited. In the beginning, mankind was limited because of sin. But you see that number there, 828. Mankind was limited in a lot of things until 828, 1934. It was limited in knowledge. Remember, that's when the knowledge increased, but also the house of Yahweh was born when Pastor was born. The work of Yahweh began. The next one, great blessing of mind, and a greatest gift. You see there, Pastor's numbers, all referring to when Yahweh wants to unleash this greatest gift in this time period. And then subconscious mind and authority, and the conscious and subconscious mind. The house of Yahweh is where we learned all the information about this, and this is where we're getting our training. And if we can get the next one, a subconscious mind. Are we ready for it? See that question? 322. And a subconscious mind able to work. 322. That's the only way we'll get it to work the only way it'll be activated is by the training we get through Pastor and his teaching. So with this, if y'all please stand and turn over to the next speaker.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Please be seated. Yahweh's peace be with each and every one of you. So I want you to raise your hand if managing a household is easy. What about managing a work department, a business? Is it easy? Okay, so I asked this because, of course, it's not easy, but to run things smoothly in a house, a department, or a business, there has to be rules and guidelines, right? So imagine what it would take to manage the universe. And that's why Yahweh gave us his laws. Now, not all these things are possible with man, but with Yahweh, all things are possible. And my point is going to lead up to see that, like these past couple of weeks, the main theme is that we're on trial. And Overseer has already brought this out many, many times, but it seems like he's really emphasizing the point that we are definitely on trial right now. So to see if we can obey Yahweh's laws as taught by the one sent through prophecy by our own will, so we can earn a position in assisting and managing the universe. So Yahweh's laws are tested and tried. They have been purified 7 times. Like, it will be our righteousness if we would do this law. And in Isaiah 32:17, it says, the works of righteousness will be peace, and the effects of righteousness will be quietness and assurance forever. Now, the sacred scriptures are a written contract, and I want you to write that down. The sacred scriptures are a written contract because between us and Yahweh, or between Yahweh and mankind. And Overseer has brought that out more in a blog that was written in 2/14 of this year. Now, this contract shows that Yahweh is building a house, a family of men, women, and children who will live by his laws of peace and never bring harm to one another. Now, the definition for a contract, a contract is an agreement between 2 or more people to exchange valuable promises. But for it to be valid, it must be legally binding. The elements of a legal contract are that there must be an offer made by one party and accepted by the other party. So made by Yahweh and accepted by us. A mutual consideration and willingness to enter into a binding contract. And we are so of course, since we're on trial, we have witnesses to testify whether or not we're doing our part, a part of this contract. So in Deuteronomy 30:19, I put the entire thing in the Gematria, exactly how it is written in the book of Yahweh. And if we could show the first slide, here are the definitions. So the first one being wine press, vat, and it's for the Hebrew 1660. Now the following number is in the Hebrew is 1486, and it means a lot or portion. To be rough as stone, properly, small stones being used for that purpose. The next number being 2478, and it's from 2342, and it means make to bring forth, make to calf, dance. And I know a lot of scripture are coming in mind. Now I want to show the book of usual quotes. I'm fumbling over my words. So the next slide, if we can show our book of usual quote. These are all the numbers added together, and it's 5622, and it means a cloak, a coat. So from the 4th book of Israel, the reverence of Yahweh, number 7, verse 51, he says, in France, the groom covers the bride's head with a talit as a symbol of his sheltering her. This custom was based on the words of Ruth to Boaz. Now, here is where they admit that this was a talit. Spread thy cloak over thy handmaid in Ruth 3:9. All the translators, especially the King James Version and the other English versions, tried to hide this fact that this was a holy garment because Satan does not want any of you to know about it. The reverence of Yahweh, number 6, verse 53, he says in verse 22, if I had not come and spoken to them, they would not have had their sins revealed, but now they have no cloak covering for their sins. And that is what's going on in the world today. The people who refuse to come here have no cloak for their sins. The fact that you're living the laws of Yahweh here at the house of Yahweh, teaching them all over the world, removes the hiding of their sins. Their sins are wide open, and they hate you for this. If we can show the next slide, we have from the 15th book of Israel, and this is just the things, the definitions that one of the words I would put into the Israel says to see what overseer would say about it. So then in the 15th, the treaders of the grapes of wrath, it's from the 15th book of Israel, chapter 1, verse 4, and he says, the traders of the grapes of wrath, that's what we're doing. We're treading the grapes of wrath under the great Yeshua, high priest and king over the house of Yahweh. It's going out to pretty much all the world. And I'm only going to read part of this. We're treading the grapes of wrath. Well, who is wrathful? The same ones that have always been from Cain. They all went the way of Cain. Revelations 12:9 says the whole world is deceived. So Yahweh prophesied about his house in the last days. Remember, the house of Yahweh was wiped out, but he said, in the last days, I'm going to establish my house, and they're going to reach the world. Now remember what this is about, this contract that we are submitting ourselves willingly to show both the heavens and the earth that we are willing to abide by every single law of Yahweh that is taught by the one sent. Now, I want to show the next Gematria, and this is proven to heavens. And if you notice the 1934, proven to heavens, 1934, the last generation, the year of the date of birth of the last day's anointed witness, Yeshua Hawkins. Now, and then if we can show our next one, and all these scriptures, if you remember the scriptures talking about Zechariah 6:12, the man who Yahweh says to behold, and it's tagged with his lot number, 322. And only because Yahweh used through Gematria in order to back up the scriptures for us in the last days. This was only accessible to us and here in these last days to prove who the last days anointed witness is to all the world. And with this, if you'd all please stand, I would like to turn it over to the next speaker.
Shalom, everyone. Please be seated. The title of my speech this morning is Let's Connect with the One Who is Connected. Let's connect with the One Who is Connected. Now, I wanted to read Luke first because Pastor doesn't just ask us to do things on the whim. Everything that we're asked to do is in the books, and it's written. And so I wanted to start out in Luke. This is going to mean a lot more to you now. Luke 1, if everyone would turn to Luke 1. And verse 1, it says, since many have undertaken to arrange an orderly narrative of the events that have come to fulfillment among us, just as they were handed down to us by those who, from the beginning, were eyewitnesses and ministers of the word, I also have decided to write my book. Doesn't it mean a lot more now? It does, and it will. Our overseer, he knows these things. Even we might read over them, and remember, he tells us all the time, stop and read every word. Don't take anything to where you just take it as a clump of paragraph and just blah, 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 blah. Oh, he's just talking about and these were the kings, and it was this one and that one and this one and that one. No, they're writing things down. And this is exactly what we're doing in our time period. We're being witnesses for this last day's work. Now, who knows where the scripture is that says that we're to seek the place? Shout it out. Deuteronomy 12:5, right? Okay, so there is a place, and it's spoken of in prophecy. So Deuteronomy 12:5, those of you who are new, who might be watching, it tells us to seek the place, seek the habitation, find the place that your Father has chosen to put his name in this time period in the last days. The last days, Isaiah 2:2, Micaiah 4:1. Now, in Amos 3:7, his name is really Amosha 3:7, it says, I'm not going to have any other work. There's not going to be any lawful, proper place for you to go unless I tell you about it first. That's what it says in Amos 3:7. It says, I'm going to speak about it in advance by my servants, the prophets. They're going to tell you where to go. They're going to explain it because we don't have to wander around aimlessly. Yahweh tells us in advance where this place is going to be, okay? And there are some great things going on at this place. You'll want to come here. So I put in the Gematria, having direct connection to Yahweh. What do you think about that? Having direct connection to Yahweh. Where? At the place Yahweh has chosen to place his name in this time period. The Amosha 3:7, where it's the only one place, and in the Micaiah 4:1, in the last days, this place will be established. And in Deuteronomy 12:5, it says, and there you must go. You see it? Do you see it, people? There you must go to get that direct contact with Yahweh. But it's not like we're just walking around the grounds and then, I have been directly connected to my Father Yahweh. No, it doesn't work like that either. Because there's someone that Yahweh has chosen in this time period. Does anyone know who that might be? Who? They're saying Israel Hawkins. Yes, you are correct. Now, so I put in the Gematria. He has the direct link. Let me say it again. He has the direct link. Let me say it again. He has the direct link. Who has the direct link? Now, do you see that 1074? That's what comes up when you put that in the Gematria. When they used to change your car tag number all the time here in Texas. But when they gave that man the number 1074, they passed a law. Now, I don't know what being could have inspired this. Let me think. Yahweh. They passed a law after all these years and years and years of having automobiles. I mean, I think it was in the 20s or 30s they started having them. That the car tag is not going to change anymore. You just have to change that little sticker thing. Now, who do you think inspired that? You're correct again. Okay, so now we know, but imagine what is it like to be Israel Hawkins? Have you ever thought about it? I mean, I'm not talking about the phone call every 30 seconds to try to solve every problem in the whole universe. I'm not talking about that, but what must it be like to know that you're the chosen one to bring about this amazing work in this time period? What must it be like? Because in Isaiah 44, it says, you know, him and his brother were chosen. Isaiah 44, for those of you who are watching, possibly for the first time, it talks about two brothers, the two witnesses, and you can also find them in Revelation 11. But the two witnesses who were actually formed from the womb by our Father to do a work in this time period. And then in Isaiah 43, let's turn to a couple of these. I don't want to just skim over them. Let's turn to Isaiah. We'll start with Isaiah 44. Isaiah 44:1. It says, yet now hear, O Jacob, my servant, and Yisrael, whom I have, what does that word say? Chosen. Yes, I have a direct link with this man, Yahweh saying. With Yeshua, we can't forget our most ahabed, honorable high priest, right? The great judge. Now, the work of Yahweh, we want to talk about that because Yisrael is an instrument. And I want to read Zechariah. I don't have time for all the scriptures that I want to read because they're already holding up signs at me that I only have a short time with you. But the work of Yahweh, why would we want to get involved in the work of Yahweh? Okay, I'm going to have a slide up here for you to read. Why should you get involved? The work of Yahweh. Because that's where in Zechariah 3:6, let's read that. Zechariah 3:6, and the Malach, I don't know who that could be. Let's think about that a minute. And the Malach of Yahweh solemnly testified to Yeshua. So what Malach do you think was testifying to Yeshua? Just ponder that. Verse 7, this is what Yahweh of hosts says. If you will walk in my ways, if you will keep my charge, then you will also rule or govern my house. Have charge of my courts, and I will give you places to walk among those who stand by. Guess what? Get your pens right in, girls, because we're the ones that are standing by, okay? Verse 8, hear now, O Yeshua, high priest, most ahabed, honorable high priest, Joshua, you and your companions who sit before you, for you are men wondered at. Who do you think one of those men is? Just take a guess. Let me hear it. Any guesses? Though they're saying Israel Hawkins. Yes, you are correct again. For behold, I will bring forth my servant, the branch. Now, Yahweh calls him the branch because he actually called him and he actually branches out and builds something. Let's go over to Zechariah 6. Zechariah 6, everyone turn there, please. And verse 11, it says, "Take the silver and gold and make crowns and set them upon the head of Yeshua, son of Melchizedek, the high priest, our most honored high priest. Speak to him and say, this is what Yahweh says, behold, behold Yeshua, most honorable high priest, most honorable judge. Behold, take a look at someone here. Behold the branch, for he will branch out from his place." Yes, this Deuteronomy 12:5, the place that I've chosen to establish my name in this time. He's going to branch out from this place and he's going to build the house of Yahweh. Do you see it? Do you see it? He's not going to do anything unless he tells you about it first. It's not a secret. Well, but it is. It's a secret, prophesied, established work. But if you read the prophecies, then it's a secret no more, right? Now, why do you get involved in the house of Yahweh? And how does getting involved in the house of Yahweh help you to reach your ultimate goal? Do you know the answer? Because when you have people support, and then when they support what they help create, they become invested. So when you're a part of the great work of Yahweh and you support it and you're involved in it and you're a working person in it, it becomes an investment to you, right? Because it's your work too. You become then one who this is my work as well. It's Yahweh's work. But remember, he's a family man. And he's given us our overseer, and he's told us in this time period what he's going to do. He's going to branch out and build a family. And a family helps in the Father's business. Do they not? Become invested, great saints. So we know the reason why we were created. We were actually created, in Genesis 1:26. I don't want to glaze over that. I know I'm going to get off here in just a minute, but let's just read Genesis 1:26. Because it says, then Yahweh says, I will make mankind according to my likeness. And, they're going to be converted. They're going to become like me. Yahweh says, we're going to do it. He speaks it as though it's done. Remember, I will have no work unless I tell you about it first. And I'm telling you, he's telling us that we're going to do this. And he has faith that we're going to do it. Now, remember, we were created to show all the kingdoms of heaven and earth that you cannot live without Yahweh's laws. You can't. And a facilitator. I was reading about facilitators, and I just want to tell you that Israel Hawkins is the greatest facilitator in the world. And I'm going to tell you what a facilitator is first before I show you the slide. A facilitator, they hire them sometimes to facilitate. Now, a facilitator takes a group of people, that's us, and with something, that's the laws of Yahweh, gets them from point A to point B. Point A is where you were when you came, and I'm telling y'all, you were a mess. We were a mess when we came, right? But that great facilitator, with the laws of Yahweh, that's what he uses. Remember, we have to have laws that govern us. That facilitator is facilitating and teaching us how to get from that mess that we were to where we're going to be, okay? Now, I put in the Amatria, the greatest facilitator in the world. And where can you find him? 2022. Again, the great mountain of Yahweh, right here, this secret prophesied established work where you'll only find the one who's connected. So connect to him. And with this, if everyone would please stand, I have the great opportunity to turn it over to the great priest in Yahweh's house. Praise Yahweh.
Praise Yahweh. Yahweh is in full control, right? Such a blessing to be here in Yahweh's house. So let's continue on. At this time, we get to hear from Great Deacon Michael Ossel.
Shabbat Shalom, great saints of Yahweh. Please be seated. Okay, I want everybody to start thinking in your mind a court setting, okay? Court setting. Now, we don't know what the courts of heaven look like or anything, but we only know courts as we know them. So imagine a court setting. And I would like you to turn over to Yada, verse 9. That's found on page... 699, is that right? 969, I believe. 969, letter of Yada. And we're going to look at verse 9. Yet Micaiah, the Malach Gadol, when she contended with the devil in a dispute over the body of Yisrael, dare not bring a reviling accusation against her, but said, against the body of Moshe, dare not bring a reviling accusation against her, but said, Yahweh rebuke you. Now, let's turn over to Psalms. Okay, and this is Psalm 110, found on page 480. 480, Psalm 110. Okay. And in verse 3 it reads, your people will have proven or proved themselves in a court of law, obedient to the law on the day you go forth in power. They will unite with you, arrayed in their holy garments, like the morning dew. They will completely cover the earth, governing with you. They will have proved themselves. Now, we went through one of the most important court dates in the history of all creation. Those 2 days we were brought forth. And if you think of the importance of these court dates, that these 2 days that the great Kohen Michael had brought out, we had never done that in the history of the house of Yahweh, where we were brought together at the last minute and had certain guidelines we needed to follow. Those were the most important 2 days of the history of all creation. And I'm going to show you what the codes say about those 2 days. And then the next code search, it's going to go into it even deeper. But the title of this search is called Heaven's Court. Okay, and we're going to see a little bit about what took place. And Yahweh showing that it was so important at this court hearing that Yahweh stood with Yahshua at his side defending the house of Yahweh. And you're going to see patterns and parallels. Now, I'm going to go through it. And in this court search, there were 3 clusters of printouts of readings in the courts, in the code search, that kind of say little things of what occurred, which was totally amazing. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump over to the codes, and we're going to look here. Okay, so I'm going to go through this, then I'll read you I'll show you the clusters. We have a cluster of them right here. We have a cluster of it right here. And then we have the final cluster over here. Okay? Now, when I did the search, I could not believe, I could not put in all the legal terms that were in here. It would have filled the whole page. But I put in as much that was relevant for those 2 days. Okay, so we're going to start. Right here we have Heaven's Court. Okay, and the letter skip on that was 9,307 characters between the first letter and the next letter. Okay, Heaven's Court. And right here we have the word accusations. Now the word accusations was in there 3 times. Accusations. Then up here we have allegations. Allegations. Okay. Then now this is going to show you what the court date was about. Right here, crossing Heaven's Court, and there's other words connected which will verify that, is the word appeal. Okay, appeal. Now, Satan's sentencing and the sentencing for us had already taken place. This was Satan's very last appeal to plead her cause and her case. That's why it was so important. That's why Yahweh was there. That's why we were all brought together to stand before the courts of heaven and all creation. It was her last attempt that Yahweh allowed her to plead her cause, to plead her case. So we have appeal, right? And the word appeal was in there 2 times. Then down here in the first cluster we have baseless, okay? And that connects over to accusations. Then we have careless. Careless. All right? And if we jump over here, connected to her appeal, the word appeal is the word corrupt. Okay, corrupt. Then we jump back over here. We have the word discreditable. Discreditable. And that means tending to bring harm to someone's reputation. That's the meaning of that word. Then right here, which crosses accusations, we have the word dishonesty. Accusation of dishonesty. Okay, then we jump over here, connected to heaven's court, and it connects to some other words, which you'll see later is the word dismissal. Okay, dismissal. Now, if we jump right here, it shows that the gods were disruptive. They were disruptive in the courtroom. Over here, we have as gods. And that mixes with, of course, 9, which is dishonesty, and I'll get into that in a moment, as gods. Okay? So, then we have right here, mixed into dishonesty, we have the word Yisrael. We have the word Yisrael. Okay? Now let's jump over to here. In this cluster we have Yahshua. Okay? And that connects to 10, dismissal. Okay? And we go over to here. Right here we have fabricate. The word fabricate. Now this next word is interesting. It's scientific evidence or forensic connected to accusations. Now, and I'm going to get into all this in a moment. Okay? Right here. Honorable Yahshua. Honorable Yahshua. These two right here. And if you notice, it's the foundation or the bottom, the base of the entire code search. All right? We have Lilith right here. Lilith. Okay, Lilith is right there. Right here, 20, we have legal, the word legal. Right here, crossing appeal. An appeal, remember, connects to heaven's court, is misappropriation or embezzlement. Okay? Over here, in this cluster, is we have the word repentance. Repentance. Down here, repentance. No, right here. Repentance. Right here we have the word rebuttal. Rebuttal or contradicting evidence, a rebuttal, an argument. Okay, and that connects to Yahshua, and there's another word in there I'm going to show you in a moment which shows that Yahweh was there. Okay, then we have, let's see, try not to get lost here. Right here, these curved letters or lines to these letters is the word reconciliation. Reconciliation. Okay, then we have right here, which is connected to rebuttal, which connects to Yahshua, is the word with Yahweh. The words with Yahweh. Okay, and that was in there 6 times, with Yahweh. All right? And we go over here, and it crosses, and it's involved in this cluster over here, valid. Now this next one, I want you to turn over to, oh, we did that, Yada 9. Okay, Yada 9, the dispute over the body of Moshe. We have the words dispute over body Yisrael. Dispute over body of Yisrael. And remember, Pastor said we were all on trial. So there was a dispute going on with Satan at her appeal. Okay? So the next one is right here, and it crosses the main, which is heaven's court, and it's connected to appeal, and it's the word Hillel. Hillel. Hey, Lamed, Lamed. Hillel. Now, we have 2 days. 2 days, right there. And then the last we have 33, 34, and 35. And those together say, house of Yahweh, sins, guilt, sinfulness, misdeeds, cleared. And then, finished and rejoicing in heaven. Finished and rejoicing in heaven. Now, as I said, there's clusters. There's a cluster here, and a cluster here, and I started realizing that these were saying something to us. Now, these three main clusters say, in cluster 1, which is on the lower left, careless, baseless accusations against Israel using forensic science or evidence in an attempt to accuse him of dishonesty in order to bring harm to his reputation as God's due. That's all in that cluster. Cluster number 2, Yahshua with Yahweh brings forth contradicting evidence to Hillel's corrupt, misappropriate appeal, which leads to its dismissal. Now, the final cluster says, this is wonderful. I mean, this was so great. Repentance and reconciliation are valid. The house of Yahweh's sins, guilt, sinfulness, and misdeeds are cleared. Finish, case closed, great rejoicing in heaven begins. Yahweh shows that this group here has made it, and we are going to fulfill everything he said we would. He said we will be those people. Now, there were some other words in there I want to read to you. The year 2020, fraud, impeachment. They wanted to impeach him. Oh, he's not worthy enough. He's not great enough to be the witness as spoken of in the scriptures. We need to impeach him. We need to get him out of office. So, sounds familiar, doesn't it? Indictment, juridical, house of Yahweh feast, libel, made up crosses, accusations, and fabricate, mocking, ridiculous, mixes with appeal, and representation, which mixes with Yahshua. The next code search, I'm going to tell you what the title is. It's House of Yahweh, innocent. And in that search, there's a cluster, and it shows what Yahweh and Yahshua's defense was for us that led to the dismissal of this case. And it shows that this group, we will do it. Yeah, we have some spots still and some wrinkles we need to work out, but nothing is going to stop us. Yahweh shows all creation, all the heavens, nothing's going to stop us. We've come this far, like was said in the earlier sermons. Look what we were when we started. Look what we are now. And wait, there's more coming. So if you'll all please stand, I will turn it back over to the great priest in Yahweh's house, the great Kohan, Michael Hawkins. Yahweh bless your Sabbath.
Well, hopefully in the courts of heaven we won't be found wanting at all, right? Praise Yahweh. At this time, we got a little bit ahead of ourselves. We'll turn it back over to the daughters of Yahweh.
Praise Yahweh. A great honor to have it come this way. Okay, so I am a creature of habit, and I have to apologize because a dear sister of mine and myself switched places, and I got so excited at the end of my speech, I just forgot to introduce her. So is it okay if she still comes up here? Praise Yahweh. If you'll all remain standing, I'd like to turn it over to a great friend and great Kohana. Praise Yahweh.
Shabbat Shalom, great saints in the house of Yahweh, honorable saints. Please take your seat in the great house of Yahweh. So, yesterday I was talking with the overseer, and then in our talk he said, did you ever look at Yael, chapter 2, verse 23, where it says, be glad then, you children of Zion, and rejoice in Yahweh, your Father, for he has given you the teacher of righteousness. And he said, did you ever look up that teacher of righteousness? And I said, well, I will. So this is the answer Yahweh gave, who that teacher of righteousness is. So I put that in the first gematria, teacher of righteousness, written by Yael, chapter 2, verse 23. And you see, Yahweh says, our great teacher, our honorable teacher of righteousness in these last days is Israel Abel Hawkins. His birth date, 8/28, and when you add those numbers all together, you even see that within those numbers, his card tag, 322. So when I looked up the numbers that went with that 4968, that went to in Hebrew Methuselah, and that went to 7973, which confirms the fact that these numbers are true. It's a shoot of growth, a branch, as written in Zechariah 6, verse 12, where Yeshua is commanded to behold the branch, the man who will build a great sacred house of Yahweh. When we go to the Greek, that number 4968 goes to a few numbers, but it ends up with 4969 of Yeshua as the Lamb of sacrifice. I get so excited in the Gematria when I see Yeshua and the overseer working hand in hand, bringing forth the great kingdom of Yahweh in these last days. Now, the title of this speech is A Place of Security. So someday after Pastor's teaching on the grasshopper and the careless weed, Yahweh inspired me to consider how blessed we are to have an honorable, righteous branch, an honorable judge, the great high priest Yeshua, and the Mosahabed, mighty great Father Yahweh. And I thought, this is security. And I thought, the world has no security. So in thinking of this in the last generation, let me bring forth the next Gematria. I want you to know that in the 1933, President Franklin D. Roosevelt became president to enter in the last generation, the same year that our overseer was conceived. And you see that number 1980 there? That shows the dedication of the first mobile sanctuary. And we all know that his initials and his nickname, they always called him President FDR. Well, when you put that in, it shows that this whole generation was for 828, the birth date of our great overseer. So I went and I thought, well, what kind of security does the world have? And I looked at the Social Security system and I thought, well, maybe it started in 1934. So if we can have our first Gematria, oh no, I don't want to give him the answer yet. Sorry, sorry. It says here in this article, since the Social Security Board did not have a network of field offices in the late 1936, it contracted with the U.S. Postal Service to distribute and assign the first batch of Social Security numbers through its 45,000 post offices around the country. Now get that number, 45,000 post offices. Now of these 45,000, only a number of them were used as typing centers for the Social Security number. Does anyone want to guess what that number was? Let me tell you. No, sorry. You see that number? And this is what really made me excited because I thought the year would be 1934, but as you can see in that article, it's 1074. What is the odds? 1 in 45,000 that number would be picked, showing that this is in the last days. So then I also I went back yesterday to finish up and I thought I could find my same article, but I really don't know how to use my phone. So Yahweh brought up a different article, and it says here, the 32-page act was the culmination of work begun by the Committee on the Economic Security. That's what they first started calling the Social Security system. Created by the President on June 29, 1934. Now, if we see that Gematria, 6/29, 1934, the year the overseer is born. Now we know Yachanan 6/29, it's the work of the house of Yahweh to believe into the one sent. How precise can Yahweh be in showing that in these last generations, it's all about the overseer bringing forth this work? Not only the overseer, but we're going to see what the president said. He said, in a ceremony, he said, a cornerstone in a structure which is being built, but is by no means complete. That cornerstone, the cornerstone there, 1074, showing that we know that cornerstone is our great high priest, the Honorable Yeshua. So once again, in this Gematria, we show, and in the records of the history, that Yeshua and the overseer are working together in these last days. Now, the computer, you can read about that in the Mark of the Beast, Volume 1, because that computer was used to enter in all our Social Security numbers. And you can read there and see all about that computer that the overseer wrote about. Now, a place of security, that is the next Gematria, 1074. It means in the Hebrew, that 1033 that goes with that means a house of pasture, a meadow, as for sheep and one lamb. Sheep, us, and one lamb, the great high priest Yeshua. And then it went to the word dance. Now, in the Greek, it means food allowed by Yahweh's laws. It means to pasture, to feed, to provide a big meal. And then the Greek 10:18, an ox. And if you look on the sermon dated 10/2/1999, you will see where that ox is, that name is hidden in order to restore the house of Yahweh, and that's the overseer. That sermon date was 10/2/99. Now, when you added all those numbers together, you got 2286. And why only would Yahweh show this after the overseer talked about the grasshopper and the careless weed? It goes to grasshopper. And in the Greek, it goes to death. But then at the end, it says, they would recover. Remember, the overseer said that the grasshopper would help us to raise the dead, to recover them and bring them back to life. And that's such an amazing thing. Now, I just want, where am I in my thing? Because I'm pretty much out of time. But I have another one on who is the teacher of righteousness again. But I think I'm just going to have to stop because there's no way I'm going to get this all done. But I'm so looking forward to show you that how the overseer's social security number ties right in to all these numbers also. At this time, let us turn over to the great Honorable Head Judge Tana.
Praise Yahweh. Well, would you believe we did all this just to see if you were on your toes? I don't either. Anyway, at this time, we'd like to turn it over to the great priest in Yahweh's house. Praise Yahweh.
I think we have 1074 sealed in our foreheads, don't you? Praise Yahweh. Of course, the world, of course, has the mark of the beast, but they're still in the wilderness. But we've come out of it. To hear more about this, we get to hear from great Kahan Bigman Krause Hawkins.
Shabbat Shalom. You can be seated. Yahweh's peace be with everyone. Okay, let's go ahead and, get right down to it here. Title of today's sermon is 40 Years in the Wilderness, 1980 to 2020. This will be part one called The Establishment. And I want you to notice these pictures here of the mobile sanctuaries, the portable sanctuary in the wilderness there, from 1491 BY to 1451 BY when they came out of Egypt and they wandered the wilderness. And then the last day's portable sanctuary there, that's how it looked in the beginning. It was a chicken coop, remember? Before it was converted into a sanctuary. 1980 AY to 2020 AY is what we'll focus on there. 40 years. So let's go to the first slide because there's no way you can get this anywhere else but the great house of Yahweh, okay? The deep and hidden things of Yahweh, notice, 1934. That's the year that Pastor was born, and that's telling you there's only one man on the face of the earth that can explain these scriptures, that can bring out the deep hidden manna that's in this book of Yahweh. It says, is revealed to the house of Yahweh, 1962. Remember, that was the beginning of the establishment of the last day's work of Yahweh. Now, I want to give you the definition of the word establish. Establish means to achieve permanence or to become permanent. Accepted or recognized, and in this case, accepted or recognized by the heavenly courts who are watching us and examining us at this time. Can I go to the next slide? So the Gematria, deep hidden manna of Yahshua Yisrael. Notice those two numbers, 1980 and 2020. Wow, what a coincidence, right? 40 years in the wilderness. Now that number 40 is the number of trial, testing, proving, and at the end, the beginning of something new. Okay? Now think of that year 2020. Let's go to the next slide. And let's talk about the establishment of the house of Yahweh. This is from the Mark of the Beast, Volume 2, Chapter 18, verse 342, where Pastor says, word for word, the establishment of the house of Yahweh actually began on December 2, 1980 at the first service in a remodeled mobile home. Remember, the first house of Yahweh was centered around a mobile sanctuary, the tabernacle in the wilderness. Talking about the one in the wilderness there from 1491 to 1451 BY. where the children of Israel wandered for 40 years. Now notice the number that comes up is 2020. Now that word 2020, yes, it's 40 years from 1980, but it also means deliverance. It means to save, deliver, escape. It also means to separate and taken away. Okay? And I want you to understand something, because this goes along with the wheat and the tares that are also going to be removed, the tares that will be removed and taken away, separated. Because 2020 in the Greek, remember, means to let shine, to shine forth. Remember what Yeshua said, once the tares are taken away, then the children of Yahweh will shine forth in this kingdom. And notice it means to show forth, to be visible or known. Remember it, you don't know who the tares are till they're removed, when the time comes when you can start to see the differences. Okay? Keep that in your mind. We'll get into that more later. Let's go to the next slide, because Pastor mentioned in this quote a mobile sanctuary and a remodeled mobile home. Notice they both come up 1074. What a coincidence, right? And 179 is that from 56, and it means a ball, which is the root of Abel. Okay? 1074 is Pastor's tag number issued in 2016 on one of his vehicles. And 1074 means first fruits in Hebrew, and 1074 in Greek is generation. This last generation, which began in 1934. An age, a race, not skin color, but a race, the race to the kingdom. There's two races taking place. And people of the same character. People of the same character, which is the righteous character in this case. Let's go to the next slide. You put in portable tabernacle in the wilderness, 1980. What a coincidence, right? Jesus, what a coincidence. And 2124 means a moving thing, like a mobile home, right? Moving, portable. Wow. So 1980 is when the journey began. Notice, put in 1980, the journey began. You get 1980. Okay, that's when our journey began. Our journey toward becoming established, permanent, recognized. Let's go to the next slide. And remember this wilderness, this 40 years in the wilderness, it's a wilderness of God worshipers that we were put in. And notice, we're in Abilene, Texas, where there's a church on every street corner, right? Notice that number 325 in all of those. Wilderness of God worshipers, church on every street corner, and all the religions of Abilene, Texas. That's our area code, 325. It's also when the Council of Nicaea took place. Remember that? 325 AY. That second number, 1950, you see on all of those, means confusion. Remember, a wilderness of God worshipers, a wilderness of confusion, to trouble, to vex, to put in commotion. From 1949 to murmur. Think of 1 Corinthians 10 about the murmuring that they did in the wilderness. Some did. Agitate greatly. Now, when you add those 325 and 1950, you get the number of the Pharisees, Sadducees, Essenes, and Herodians. The four religions, which means to unite, to tie a magic knot or spell, to form an alliance. Okay? And that's what they are, the lords of Abilene, who have formed an alliance against Yahweh. Now let's look at this next slide, because it gives us a definition of 1980. Now, Jacob and Yisrael, the two witnesses in 1980, they restored this great work in 1980 on 12/2/1980. That first number 330 means fine linen. One of those witnesses is dressed in fine linen, right? 330 means to revive, to sprout again, back, repetition. In other words, something that's being done again, that was done before. Now, get this definition of 1980, because this is going to show you about our journey. It means walking, following, like walking with Yahweh, following, continuing, brighter. It's getting brighter as we get toward the end here, right? Get rid of sin, growing steadily, travelers, wanderings, went along continually, set, like establish, behave self, exercise self, go forward, come, to bring, to flow. These are all definitions also that are using the word able. Able means to bring. And also you see the word journey. That number 1980, by the way, it's used in Micaiah 2 or Micaiah 4 and Isaiah 2 about 10 times. Remember, come, let us go up to the mountain of Yahweh. Okay? Okay, and then 1980 in the Greek. Now get this. It means to look upon, to select, to inspect. Remember, we're under examination, right? Trial and testing and proving. Examine with the eyes. To look upon in order to help or benefit, to provide for. And then the third number, 2297 in Jacob, Israel 1980, means one. One the other. Remember the two witnesses who came together. They were united on 12/2/1980 to establish this work. Okay, that first mobile sanctuary. And it means go one way or another. In other words, it's our choice which way we're going to go. Do we want to be the wheat or do we want to be the tares? And it means to unify, because that's what it's going to take to get into this great kingdom. We must come in unity with Yahweh. He's not going to come in unity with us. We must come in unity with the teachings of the house of Yahweh, all of us together. Okay, now let's go to the next slide, because remember, Deuteronomy 8:2, it says, you must remember that Yahweh your Father led you all the way these 40 years in the wilderness in order to humble you, test and prove you, and know what was in your heart, to see whether you would keep his laws or whether you would not. Notice, to humble, test, and to prove us, 1980. That's when the journey began. Our walk with Yahweh. Remember the definitions. And then 2090 means to build, construct, create, prepare, make ready, furnish, equip, ordain. Remember, we're being fully furnished, fully equipped with all righteousness to be ready to take our positions. 2090 in Greek means to make ready, prepare. Remember Pastor's first mobile home park was called Ready Trailer Park? Remember that? Ready. It means prepare, ready, prepared, fitness, like mental fitness. Okay? Mental fitness. And it means adjusted. We have to make the adjustments. Yahweh's not going to adjust to us, okay? We got to adjust to Yahweh to make it. Let's go to the next slide. Talking about the manna. Notice, hidden manna. This is Revelation 2:17, by the way. Hidden manna, white stone, a restored name. Notice you get 1980 again. Wow. And first number, 363, means a tree, a terebinth, oak. Remember, terebinth in Revelation 12:6 meant mighty teacher. Remember Melchizedek? It said that Abraham went to the terebinth tree, I guess in the King James. It meant mighty teacher. The oak, a mighty man. And then from 193, the body is being rolled together or being formed into a unity, strength, powerful. That's pastor's job as a mighty teacher. Second number, or 363 in the Greek, means to call ones to remembrance, bring to remembrance, and admonish. You know, bring Yahweh's name to remembrance, his authority, his laws. That's the job of our overseer, and that's the job of all of us with one another and with the children. Notice 2178, that third number, it means to nourish, to feed, to be plump. I don't know about y'all, but I'm getting pretty plump. Not just in my cranium, but in my gut too, right? That's okay. He said he was going to pamper us and feed us in the wilderness, right? Yes, some of us need pampers too. Okay, 1980, dedication, remember, of the first sanctuary on 12/2/80. I'm talking about the younger ones. Okay, so let's look at the next slide. White stone of acquittal. White stone of acquittal. What, another 1980? What is this? White stone of acquittal, 1980. And 296, when you add those two numbers together, you get, let's see, what is it? What did I add together there? Oh, something's not right here. It's 2276, I think is what it comes out to, and it means to unite, join, and be attached. Okay, that's what we have to do. We have to be attached, united. Remember, Levi means attached. Sons of Levi, or the ones that are attached to this work in these last days. That's what we must be to earn this white stone of acquittal. And remember that white stone of acquittal in Revelation 2:17 in the footnote there, it says the white stone represents Yahweh giving the sentence of acquittal to all who will overcome sin. Notice, those who overcome their sins, 1980 again? Oh, this has got to be a coincidence how this number keeps coming up. Remember, it has to do with our walk. When this dedication of the first last days mobile sanctuary took place, and notice the second number, 2565, means a cultivated olive tree, beneficial olive tree. Really, let's go to the next slide and see what that's talking about. The cultivated beneficial olive tree, 1962, when the work of Yahweh began. This establishment. Notice 2329 means keep the feast, celebrate a feast. That's what we do here, right? We keep the feast. That's where we get this knowledge that makes us plump. It's okay to be plump. We should be growing fat, okay? Well, all right. I better be careful. I'm talking about knowledge, wisdom, understanding. And yeah, it's okay to eat too, okay? You should be eating. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, 2 Chronicles 20:20. Now, think of 2020, the year 2020. It says, believe in Yahweh your Father, and you shall be established. That footnote on believe there says, give credit to Yahweh's words and doctrines. So notice, giving credit to Yahweh's words, 1980 again? Wow. Giving credit to Yahweh's words. And 3659, which means Yahweh will establish. Wow, what a coincidence, right, House of Yahweh? Yahweh will establish us if we give credit to the words of Israel Hawkins. You see that literature that's all over the House of Yahweh? We need to be feeding, making our minds nice and plump with this stuff, okay? Because that's what's going to feed us this manna that we need to make it. Let's go to the next slide. In the 17th book of Israel, chapter 32, verse 50, in Exodus 20:20, Pastor says, Exodus 20:20, he put you here to test you, to see if you're capable of being made into Genesis 1:26. Those who will accept this, he gives power, authority, and permission for eternal life. Notice, he put you here to test you, 1962. And 22:16, which in both languages means Zerubbabel, he who opposes Babylon. This work began in 1962 of the opposing of Babylon, and he put us here to test us. We're in the right place. This is the testing ground. Now notice in the next slide, remember he said you're going to be granted the authority of Yahweh, that authority in Genesis 1:26, and also grants authority, permission, and eternal life, 2020. Notice, granted the authority of Yahweh, 1980 again. Wow. And 2676 means a preparing, an equipping, like equipping us with righteousness, a perfecting, making fit, a training, disciplining, instructing, prepared, fit and joined together, perfect for his full destination and use, bring into its proper condition, equip, fully trained, made complete, to mend and restore, perfect. And then 2020 again, remember about the separation and the taking away and the saving and the deliverance of those that will obey. And 2020 in the Greek, to shine forth, to be visible or known. Let's go to the next slide. Now this is really beautiful because, we need to be thinking about the great children of the house of Yahweh here. And so we're going to get into a little section here that's very important. I need you to pay full attention. This is from Yael 2:26 and 27. It says, you will eat in plenty, be satisfied, and praise the name of Yahweh your Father, who has dealt wondrously with you. And my people will never be ashamed. And you will know that I am in the midst of Israel, that I am Yahweh your Father. Notice, that comes out to 1962. Okay? Now, in the midst of Israel, where are we sitting right now? We're in the city of Israel, right? This is Israel. These aren't just cutesy little made-up things here, when Pastor comes out with stuff. This is prophecy being fulfilled before our very eyes. This should be wondrous in our sight here, okay? We are in the midst of Israel, Texas, city of. Okay, you see that? From the prophecy film there, that overview of the Israel, Texas. But, here's an amazing coincidence. I'm going to show you an amazing coincidence. Me and Pastor talked about this way back at, I think it was Pentecost. Was it Pentecost or Passover when they came out with the aprons that we never got to use? You remember that? We had some aprons that were made. Let's go to the next slide so you can see that apron. On the apron it says Yisrael TX, Texas, city of Yamatria, 1074. When you put that in exactly the way it is, it comes out to 1962. Wow, another coincidence, right? Now, that number 327 means royal, and I thought I heard something about Royal 67 once. The beginning of the 1962, the beginning of the last day's work. And notice the third number, 2598. It means dedication, consecration, to train up. That's the word that's used in Proverbs 22:6. Train up a child in the way they should go, and then in the end they won't depart from it. Okay? Keep that in your mind. And it means to discipline. Now, discipline, don't get in your mind that means spanking or something like it. It means to disciple, to teach, to guide, to educate. When you add up those numbers, it comes up to 4887, and it means oil, anointing oil, to anoint, anointed, to rub with oil. Yes, the golden oil, that's what we're doing with the children. That's what we should be doing. Okay, we should be teaching our children in our examples day to day and through the booklets and books, etc. And 4487 means to bind together, to tie together. Let's go to the next slide. I'm almost done. This is Yael 227. You put in Yael 227 in the midst of Yisrael. Notice you get pastor's tag number 322. Okay? And you get 2280, which means govern, to rule, healer. Remember, he's a restorer. He restores. And when you add up 322, 1932, and 2280, you get 4534, which means to hedge about, to fence up, shut in for protection. This is the protected place, the city of Israel, Texas, right here, home of 1074 in the house of Yahweh, right here. You're in it. We're in it. All right, my last slide. Now, this is Yael 226 and 227, word for word from the book of Yahweh. Now, listen closely. It says, "And you will know that I am in the midst of Israel, that I am Yahweh your Father, and that there is no other. Then my people will never be ashamed. And it will come to pass afterward, I will pour out my spirit, or my laws, upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters will prophesy, your old men will dream dreams, your young men will see visions." Notice you get 2022, the mountain, the promotion, but in Strong's Greek, it means to pour upon, to pour upon, to pour in, pouring in this golden oil. Look at these children eating it up. They're getting the golden oil that's taught from the house of Yahweh. This is what we're doing. We're pouring it in, and we need to keep pouring it on, house of Yahweh. Yahweh recognizes your works. We should all be greatly blessed that we have the greatest teacher in the world that's guiding us and feeding us careless weed and grasshopper and all these great things. So at this time, it's been a great pleasure and opportunity to speak to you. We'll continue more about this hidden manna that's only revealed at Yahweh's house. Be here to receive it. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to the great Kohan, Michael Hawkins.
I love that mobile home. That's a beautiful place. And you think about it. It started off there, humble little mobile home. Now look what we have. We continue to grow and got a whole universe eventually to grow through, right? But to help us in our growth, at this time we get to hear from great Kohan Yehuda Hawkins.
Shalom. Please be seated. Oh dear. I'm going to turn this book up. I had the book upside down. Take your book of Yahweh. We're going to look in pages 692 and 693. And incidentally, we're going to talk about Yael chapter 2, verses 3 through 10 and verse 27. There is some research work on it that just came out. If you have a Bible, it's Joel chapter 2, verses 3 through 10 and verse 27. That's the way they wrote it, and I have no control of it. But in the Hebrew, it is Yael. Anyway, let's start reading the scripture there. Yael 2, verse 3 through 10, starting with verse 3. Of fire devours in front of them, and behind them a flame burns. The land is like the Garden of Eden in front of them, but behind them a desolate wilderness. Yes, and nothing will escape them. Sure looks bad, doesn't it? But then it goes on. Their appearance is like the appearance of horses. As horsemen, so will they run. Like the noise of chariots on the tops of mountains will they leap. Like the noise of a flame of fire that devours the stubble, like a strong people set in battle formation. In other words, the cavalry, and you're fixing to hear the officer say, charge! I got somebody mad one time about that, but that's another story. Before them the peoples are in anguish. All faces become pale. They will run like mighty men. They will climb the wall like warriors. They will march on his course, and they will not break their ranks. That's verse 7. They will not push another. Each one marches straight ahead. They plunge through defenses, and their ranks do not falter. They run to and fro in the city. They will break down the wall. We keep hearing about building walls. They're not going to work. They will climb up to the houses, into the houses. They enter at the windows like a thief. The earth will quake before them. The heavens will tremble. The sun and the moon will be dark, and the stars will withdraw their shining. Now, the sun and the moon and the dark and the stars especially is talking about Hillel and her following. It says their shining, they will withdraw their shining. In other words, people are going to see them as they really are. That's pretty accurate right there. They're going to see them as they really are, even the Pope. Now, verse 27, and you will know that I am in the midst of Israel, that I am Yahweh your Father, and that there is no other, then my people will never be ashamed. The word fire that is written in Yael 2, verse 3 is translated from the Hebrew word ash. This word is listed on page 155 of a Hebrew and Celtic lexicon to the Old Testament by Julius First, which shows this word means extreme danger. In other words, there's some stuff that's dangerous out there. The word devour that is written in Yael 2, verse 3 is translated from the Hebrew word akal. This word is listed on page 84 of a Hebrew and Celtic lexicon to the Old Testament by Julius First, shows this word means deadly sickness. Keep that in mind. The word behind that is in the clause behind them a flame burns is translated from the Hebrew word agriu. This word is listed on page 41 of volume 1 of the Hebrew Aramaic English Dictionary by Marcus Jastrow, which shows this word means idolatry, or in this place it means idolatry, that is God worship. The word flame that is written in Yael 2 verse 3 is translated from the Hebrew word talahat. This word is listed on page 414 of the Analytical Hebrew and Celtic Lexicon by Benjamin Davison, which shows this word means dazzling, delusions. Delusions. Keep that in mind. The word burns that is written in Yael 2 verse 3 is translated from the Hebrew word, get that page here. The word burns that is written in Yael 2 verse 3 is translated from the Hebrew word lahaba. This word is listed on pages 723 and 730 of a Hebrew Celtic lexicon to the Old Testament by Julius First, which shows this word traces back to the Hebrew root word lab and thus means heart. The word behind in the phrase and behind him that is written in Yael 2 verse 3 is translated from the Hebrew akriu. This word is listed on page 40 of volume 1 of the Hebrew Aramaic English Dictionary by Marcus Jastrow, which shows this word means to set behind or to leave behind. The word yes that is written in Yael 2 verse 3 is translated from the Hebrew word gam. This word is listed on page 139 of the Analytical Hebrew and Celtic Lexicon by Benjamin Davison, which shows this word means truly. Truly. The word escape that is written in Yael 2 verse 3 is translated from the Hebrew word faliliu. Well, let me correct myself. Falitu. I looked at the letter wrong. This word is listed on page 626 of the Analytical Hebrew and Celtic Dictionary by Benjamin Davidson, tongue's a little fast, which shows this word means deliverance. Deliverance of Yahweh. The word earth that is written in Yael 2 verse 10 is translated from the Hebrew word aratz. This word is listed on page 153 of a Hebrew and Chaldee lexicon to the Old Testament by Julius First, which shows this word means the world, the inhabited world near to us, this world where we live. We got quite an inhabited world near us, don't we? A lot of it is not exactly something I would like to be around. Okay, the word Israel that is written in Yael 2:27 is translated from the Hebrew word Israel. This word is listed on pages 310 and 311 of volume 4 of the Dictionary of Classical Hebrew by David Kleins, which shows this word means cities of, community of, to establish. The word then that is written in Yael 2 verse 27 is translated from the Hebrew word, conjunction wa. This word is listed on page 233 of the Analytical Hebrew and Chaldee lexicon by Benjamin Davidson, which shows this word means for, shows. So this is what Yael 2 verses 3 through 10 and 27 is saying. They will be confronted with extreme danger, deadly plagues, for they have turned to God worship. Their hearts are filled with strong delusion. And remember, that's what Revelation, this is where the Revelation got it. Yachanan knew this scripture. For they'll be given over to strong delusion, he said. So did Yeshua, and so did some of the other prophets. The land was like the Garden of Eden in front of them, but they left it behind as a desolate wilderness. Truly, Yahweh will not deliver them. They think they're going to be saved. They're not going to be saved for anything but, well, whatever their final end will be. Their appearance. Now, I want you to understand, this verse 3 is talking about the world. I'm talking about as was verse 10. And the dangers of this world. It says that they are going to face deadly plagues. And that means more than one. Pastor has said there are going to be 7. And Yahweh is not going to deliver them from it. They think they can get it by doing all the different things you see in the paper and in the news and everything. But everything they try is going to fail, including the walls falling down. It's the whole 9 yards. But what it's talking about here is, what is the subject of what this is talking about? Can anybody tell me? Brothers, sisters, doesn't matter. What is it talking about? Who? It's talking about deadly plagues like COVID-19. They are confronted with extreme danger, deadly plagues. For they have turned to God worship. They cry to their Lord, their God, their Jesus. All of them. And is anything helping? Texas and some of these other states have got more COVID-19 cases than some nations do. And truly, Yahweh said he will not deliver them. Verse 4. Now it's talking about something else. Verse 3 was talking about the people involved in the bad plagues that are coming and how they're going to suffer. Verse 4 is talking about, now the subject matter in this whole thing is COVID-19 or the plagues. Verse 4 now is not talking about people, it's talking about COVID-19 itself. Their appearance is like the appearance of horses, and horsemen, so will they run. In other words, they come and it doesn't seem like anything to stop them, like a cavalry charge we used to do in the old days. Like the noise of chariots on tops of mountains will they leap. Like the noise of a flame of fire that devours the stubble, like a strong people set in battle formation. It seems like this virus is very organized in its own way. For before them the people are in anguish. All faces become pale. They will run like mighty men. They will climb the wall like warriors. They will march on its course, and they will break their ranks. Not break their ranks. Nothing is stopping it, is it? It keeps on coming. They will not push another. Each one marches straight ahead. They just keep coming. They plunge through the defenses, and their ranks do not falter. They think they stopped it, and they thought they had it under control, and it's coming back. It has what they call a come back. I'm almost done. They will run to and fro in the city. They will break down the wall. They will go through those walls. That's not going to stop it. They will climb into the houses. They enter at the windows like a thief. The world will quake before them. Have you seen how frightened everyone is out there? The heavens will tremble, and you'll probably see some of it from the news today. The sun and the moon will be dark, and the stars will withdraw their shining. In other words, they're finally going to see Hillel as she really is, and her followers with her. And you will know that I am in the midst of Israel, my city, my community that I have established. And you will know that I am Yahweh your Father, and that there is no other, for my people will never be ashamed. Brothers and sisters, never be ashamed who you are. You're in Yahweh's house. We don't pay attention to color, gender, age, size, smallness, whatever. You are who you are. Don't be ashamed of it. Look to Yahweh and rejoice, because you're here at Israel. Yahweh established this community, this city. You are part of it. Give the thanks to him. Don't give the thanks to me, and I don't think Pastor wants you to give the thanks to him. He'll tell you to say praise Yahweh. But COVID-19, if it does ever hit you, I would dare say it's just like having a bad sniffle where everybody else, they're fighting for their lives. Now, as far as I know, this is a protected place. And I don't question that logic, and I agree with it. But what I'm trying to tell you is, don't be ashamed. It doesn't matter what your skin color is. Shouldn't be ashamed. If you're a guy or a gal, a boy or a girl, a grown-up or a kid, you're here. Don't be ashamed. You are in Israel. You are at the city Yahweh, the community Yahweh established. The Word says this. There may be Yahweh's gematria that says more. But the point of the matter is, don't be ashamed. With that, I ask Yahweh to bless your understanding, and I turn the services back to the Kohan Michael.
Praise Yahweh. There's a lot going on in the news that we know about that, and our next speaker, he's always on top of everything, telling us what's going on and informing us all the time. So this time we get to hear from great Kohan Ilya Hawkins.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Please be seated. Now, going along with everything that's been brought today, we see things taking place in the news, and of course, COVID-19 has kind of taken over the news, this plague that we see being poured out upon those who have the mark of the beast, and yes, it's being poured out. We see a lot of other prophecies still taking place, but they're not making the news front. And one of them is that Nord Stream 2 pipeline that was being installed from Russia to Germany. Remember, they're trying to get that into Europe, and the reason they're doing it, one is to escape the petrodollar, to be able to do business in the Russian ruble or the petro ruble, and to also get the dependency away from the United States liquid gas, which is more expensive also than what's being sold in Europe by Russia with this Nord Stream 2 pipeline that is soon to come into play. But watch what it says very carefully. They're doing it to escape sanctions. They're trying to get out from underneath this power of the beast that is not letting them buy, sell, nor trade if they don't comply. And then you also continually have the war still going on in Saudi Arabia and Yemen with the bombings taking place. The South China Sea is becoming more toxic with the armed militaries building up. Even Vietnam is now making a strong showing. Taiwan, these are all allies of the United States, and they're making this strong showing. While this is taking place, you have what they're calling mysterious explosions in Iran. Iran has said that they know what's causing them, but they're reserving the right to comment at this time. But it was coming out in the news this morning, they're preparing to retaliate. Now, of course, there's very few people that Iran accuses of these things, and just think about how quick this could take place, how fast this could elevate, how fast it could actually increase in tension. Then with the COVID-19, of course, you'll see lines for testing. There's lines that people standing in line are in line with their cars for 12 hours trying to actually get a COVID test. And then, of course, they show that even the mayor of a city that we've seen in the news received a COVID test, and then 8 days later found out they were positive. But in that time period, they held press conferences. They were out amongst the people. They were still out there, and of course spreading this disease because scientists have never seen anything like this before. This is a God newly come up, and they don't understand this disease. Here in Texas, we had a record taking place this last week. Other states are record. United States, 77,000 positive cases in one day, and that was 10,000 more than the previous record. But also the local county jail here in Taylor County. It is running rampant even through the jail, and these are people that are supposed to be quarantined in a jail, but of course they keep bringing it in. It's coming in from the people that walk into the facilities, and they can't stop it. They don't know how to stop it. And you're going to see where scientists are saying now, and this is very important, they're saying they once thought it was respiratory, where you inhale it and it gets in your lungs, but now they're saying there's something here with the blood. It's got something to do with the blood because a lot of people are receiving thousands of blood clots. It's got something to do with the blood. Keep that in mind because Pastor brought out the only cure that you can have for it because these people are holding on to symptoms for months. They're not getting rid of it in weeks. They're holding on in months. And while all this is taking place, one last thing to show you to get in your minds, you see this article here. It says, Abbas tells Putin to resume peace talks with Israel under quartet leadership. Remember the prophecies of the quartet. And it says, Abbas tells the Russian president that the Palestinians want to renew negotiations to be on international legitimacy with the EU, the UN, and Russia's participation, not just the U.S. Very important to notice how Abbas says this. He says right here, it says the Palestinians are prepared to return to the negotiation table with Israel under the notice auspicious of the quartet with compromise, which compromises of the United States, the EU, the UN, and Russia. Now, notice that word because he's literally saying that word is defined as a divine or prophetic token. He's asking to return back under the prophecies of the quartet. And who has brought these prophecies? None other than the one sent. All of these things coming together, the plagues are being poured out upon all of those who have the mark of the beast and all of those who reject the one sent. They reject Yahweh. So keep these things in mind and watch how these prophecies are coming to pass. Everything in line with exactly how Pastor has brought that they would in these last days. If we could please go ahead and play the news.
Now to the pipeline that Germany sorely wants and needs so that it can provide its population with fuel. The problem is the Nord Stream pipeline 1 and 2 comes from Russia, and the United States doesn't like that. But Denmark, on the other hand, has said, look, we're cool with it. And in fact, Denmark has given the okay for it to go through the Baltic Sea. The country's approval of the project is meant to go around the U.S. sanctions. The country's approval of the project is meant to go around the U.S. sanctions, which threaten to seriously delay or cancel the pipeline project. The pipeline is a massive undertaking, which involves laying something like 750 miles of pipe under the Baltic Sea from Russia to northern Germany. That will allow Germany to purchase up to 110 billion cubic meters of natural gas directly from Russia. It's a business deal, right? Well, now the U.S. and its opposition to the pipeline bases solely on its sanctions against Russia and its Russia ire. Is that the case? Well, yeah, the answer would be yes, but that's not all. Why else is the U.S. wanting to stop this? The U.S., according to many experts, is concerned about how much of a powerhouse, think about it, Germany could be if it is able to tap into an unlimited supply of cheap gas. See, there's a lot riding on this Nord Stream thing.
It may be loathed by politicians across the US, but Denmark has given the green light to the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline project to continue, with all important undersea pipe-laying vessels being put to work.
The Danish Energy Agency has decided that Nord Stream 2 AG also may use pipe-laying vessels with anchors in connection with the construction of the Nord Stream 2 pipelines.
The pipeline is a joint project between Russia's Gazprom and 5 other European companies. When it's finished, it'll bring an extra 55 billion cubic meters of gas directly from Russia into Germany. And these particular Danish ships are crucial to getting the job completed.
As we expected, the DEA satisfied our request. We will implement the project in accordance with the building permit and environmental impact assessment. We continue to consider various options for its completion, and in due time we will inform about our plans.
The reason this specialized equipment is so important is that the pipeline is being laid in some particularly choppy waters. Nothing to do with nautical conditions, more to do with the 50,000 tons of chemical weapons that were dumped on the sea floor in the area during post-World War II decommissioning. The response from Washington to the project has been equally as toxic. The United States says this pipeline will make Europe overly reliant on Russia for energy. It'll also lessen demand for US liquefied natural gas. Last month, a bipartisan bill was introduced into Congress, which could see US sanctions imposed on European companies and individuals involved in Nord Stream 2. Totally unacceptable, says the German gas lobby.
The adoption of such a tightened and retroactive sanctions law would be an unacceptable encroachment on the EU sovereignty and energy security of Western Europe.
The problem for the United States is that their product, liquefied natural gas, is more expensive on the European market. And Washington wielding sanctions like a club with which to beat those that don't do as they're told is hardly going to make friends and influence people in European capitals.
Special envoy to Yemen is calling for an urgent probe into Wednesday's airstrikes in the north of the country. The World Body's Humanitarian Coordination Office earlier said at least 11 civilians were killed in the bombing raid, although the rebel Houthi movement's health ministry itself says it's more like 24. Now, we're about to show you next some video from a hospital, but please be aware it shows young children with injuries. Here it is. Well, this is where a lot of the survivors from the attack are being treated. Many of them are youngsters. The Houthi officials say the Saudi-led coalition hit residential buildings. Military chiefs have so far only said they'll investigate. The attack has drawn international condemnation, including from the UN Children's Fund, UNICEF. Since the beginning of the Yemeni war in 2015 now, the country's become one of the world's worst humanitarian catastrophes, with over 100,000 killed. The majority of civilian casualties result from airstrikes, with the Saudi-led coalition being blamed by international human rights groups for indiscriminate bombings. Despite that, Britain last week announced it would resume arms sales to Saudi Arabia, with the International Trade Secretary saying possible war crimes in Yemen seem to be isolated incidents.
I have assessed that there is not a clear risk that the export of arms and military equipment to Saudi Arabia might be used in the commission of a serious violation of international humanitarian law.
Why United Kingdom actually still sending these weapons to Saudi Arabia? I don't understand. I think this is hypocrisy and completely misleading to everybody, because the British government are seeking more money from Saudi Arabia. This is the aim, and definitely they wouldn't pay any attention to any court case in this field. It is shame on the British government actually to supply the Saudi with these lethal weapons.
Then the painful challenges for Yemen don't stop there. A recent Red Cross report says a new wave of humanitarian catastrophes unfolding after heavy rains and deadly floods are set to compound the suffering.
In several areas of the South China Sea, islands, atolls and reefs have been transformed. China claims almost the entire area and for years has been militarizing the islands, constructing remote outposts. Taiwan also claims parts of the South China Sea, along with several Southeast Asian countries, including Vietnam, which has mounted the strongest challenge to Beijing. Last month, the Vietnamese Prime Minister opened the latest Southeast Asian Leaders Summit with a strong statement on the issue, without mentioning China.
While the entire world is mobilizing its full force to fight against the pandemic, irresponsible acts and violations of international laws are still taking place, affecting the environment of security and stability in several regions, including ours.
The statement from US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo came a year after the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague ruled that China's claims were invalid. The case was taken by the Philippines, but the verdict did nothing to slow China's assertiveness. Tensions between China and the United States have been increasing over trade, coronavirus, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and now the South China Sea.
The US statement neglects the history and facts about the issues about the South China Sea. It breaches the US government's open commitment to not take any position on the sovereignty of the South China Sea. It violates and distorts international law. It is stirring up territorial disputes in the South China Sea, which is very irresponsible.
In recent weeks, both militaries conducted exercises in the area, with the US saying repeatedly it wants to ensure freedom of navigation. Beijing suspects otherwise. Not only is there strategic value in the South China Sea, but it's one of the world's busiest shipping lanes and is believed to hold large, exploitable natural resources. China has continued to develop parts of the region largely unopposed militarily. While the US statement doesn't necessarily signal a change in that regard, it does signal a stronger stance against Beijing and will increase tension during these unstable times.
I'm going to share some frightening videos that are coming out of the South China Sea with you today. It's quite a sight to behold, but before I do that, let me take you back to what was going on in that same place about a month ago, because this kind of, I think, sets the story up better. So let's do that. 1 month ago, tensions between Hong Kong and Beijing were boiling over. So the United States sent in literally 1/4 of its carrier fleet to the waters that are surrounding China. China did not take that well. In fact, here's the warning that China sent the United States. Xi Jinping's government officially warned the United States that they would consider deploying countermeasures, in quotations, against the warships, including carrier-killing ballistic missiles. Wow, right? China insists that the United States is trying to provoke them. Okay, that was a month ago. Now, using China's own description, a new provocation may be underway. This time it's China's arch rival and U.S. ally, Taiwan, that is conducting military exercises that are obviously meant to send Beijing a stern message. That message is a massive live fire military exercise on land, air, and sea, meant to, quote, show China, this is what Taiwan's president is saying, show China Taiwan's determination to defend itself. You ready? Here it is. We're going to drill down because this is a place where the next major global conflict could easily erupt, and because we think that you should know about it. They are among the most massive and certainly the most visual live fire military exercises that we've seen in that part of the world in quite some time, and they're presented that way for a purpose. The purpose is messaging, and the message is, back off, China. Here now, correspondent Alex Mihailovich with the latest from the South China Sea.
Air, sea, and land forces using live ammunition to show off Taiwan's military might.
The Heilong exercise is an annual major event of our military, and it shows the combat power of our troops. We want the world to see our determination and efforts to protect our country.
This year, 8,000 soldiers took part in the show, which is modeled on a potential invasion of the island from mainland China. China has always insisted that Taiwan is a part of its territory, and to some degree, a peaceful status quo relationship has been internationally respected for decades. Through the years, even the United States has shown appreciation for the relationship. But now, with tensions high between the U.S. and China, the current administration in D.C. is taking a less conciliatory stance with Taiwan and other Chinese territorial claims in the South China Sea.
I think things have shifted dramatically in the region. I think you're seeing countries all throughout Asia and indeed in Southeast Asia and in the Pacific recognizing that the United States is prepared to do the things necessary to assist them in protecting their valid legal claims.
China says that the rhetoric and other moves by the Trump administration are attempts to destabilize the region. Aside from brash statements, the U.S. is actively patrolling the area, which is half a world away from its mainland, with 2 warships and occasional flybys of B-1B supersonic bombers. Taiwan aside, without a doubt, the South China Sea is very valuable. About 1/3 of the world's shipping flows through the strategic body of water. 10% of all the world's fisheries are there. And to top it off, the South China Sea is thought to contain 190 trillion cubic feet of natural gas and 11 billion barrels of oil. The usual suspects want to increase America's foothold in that region.
I think support for Taiwan maintaining its separate status and indeed deepening ties with the United States remains very strong.
But many countries in the area would rather avoid trouble. A number of regional players are saying that they have historically been able to manage their own relations with China, and that they are eager to continue moving forward peacefully without interference from the other side of the globe.
Something kind of mysterious is taking place in Iran as we speak. The story begins, but certainly does not end, with this video that I'm about to show you right here. Take a look at this video, because it reflects what's just been going on there in the past, 48 hours. 7 ships have suddenly caught fire in Iran. The new news agency there is describing it as a series of, quote, fires and explosions around the country, some of which have hit sensitive areas. There you can see firefighters, you see the rescue officials there looking somewhat perplexed, almost confused, as they try and put out these blazes that they can't quite explain. Okay, now, I mentioned that there's a mystery here, and that there's more to this story, and, well, here it is. If those fires and explosions were an isolated incident, I would not be leading this newscast with this revelation, but the fact of the matter is, these are not isolated fires. They're not. Since late June, there have been fires and explosions, many of them unexplained, around Iranian military, nuclear, and industrial facilities. In fact, I want to take you through some of these incidents. About 3 weeks ago, June 26th, an explosion occurred just east of Tehran, near the Parchin military base. The cause was said to be a leak in a gas storage facility. Okay. 4 days later, though, June 30th, 19 people were killed in an explosion in a medical clinic, this time just north of Tehran. The explanation there? Apparently another gas leak. Then, just a couple of days after that, July 2nd, a fire erupts at Iran's underground nuclear facility in Natanz. What caused that one? Officially, Iran says it knows, but it's not ready to say. The state's news agency, though, is suggesting sabotage by either Israel, the United States, or both, they seem to say. So, here's what we're left with, right? What really is going on with this sudden string of fires and explosions in Iran that now include 7 ships destroyed in an Iranian port? Can it be nothing more than just a coincidence? Or is something else at play here?
I'm Carter Evans in California, where lines just to get a COVID test stretch for blocks. In Lexington, Kentucky.
I didn't expect that the line is going to be this long.
In Arizona, one of the hardest hit states, the wait is up to 12 hours.
The turnaround time for our testing in Arizona is really bad. You can get your test, and those results may not come back for 7 or 8 days.
When people have to wait a week or more to find out if they're positive, what does that mean for the disease?
Well, the disease has a heck of a long time when we really don't know where it is or isn't.
Tucson ER doctor Matt Hines says that's why people need to self-isolate until the results are in.
Don't stop doing the right thing to help us get this under control.
It took 8 days for Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms to learn she was positive. She was out in public during that time.
Our testing system is failing. And this is the reason this virus is continuing to spread. This is the reason that people are inadvertently putting people in harm's way.
I mean, can you blame these people for not wanting to quarantine while they wait a week or more for results?
Not at all. It's going to be really hard to keep them out of work for 7, 8, 9 days when this should all be taken care of in a day. This is not where we should be in the United States of America.
Behind me, you can see a huge line of cars at a testing center here outside Los Angeles. They test about 2,000 people a day here. Overall, in the state of California, they're averaging about 100,000 tests a day, and about 8% of those are coming back positive.
Now let's jump to Texas, which reported 129 COVID-related deaths yesterday, the state's largest one-day death toll so far. The number of new cases topped the 10,000 mark on the same day, and Houston is now getting help from teams of doctors and nurses sent by the U.S. Army and by New York State. Janet Shamlian spoke to a young ICU nurse recovering from COVID and a doctor who compares the outbreak there to a war zone.
How heartbreaking is this for you?
Oh my God, man. I tell you, I was a flight surgeon in the Iraq War, but it's very different when the person that you're putting in a body bag is your next door neighbor for 50 years, your mom's best friend.
Dr. Ivan Melendez paints a picture of a healthcare system in chaos as beds fill up.
Things are so dire that people are being resuscitated on stretchers in the hallways. The night before last, I had 4 calls of 4 patients dying.
The governor says patients under 30 are a driving force behind the latest surge in cases.
It's become a very personal and unfortunate experience.
Dr. Melendez, who also recovered from COVID, says emotions run high for patients, their loved ones, and the doctors and nurses on the front lines.
You know, I think you can imagine that all of us cry every day. Every day they cry and they're angry.
Dr. Melendez says that 6 nurses that he's worked with have died of COVID. And he says at his hospital, they're doing the best they can right now to make more beds available for those coronavirus patients. Gail, a very sad situation down there in the valley.
The Taylor County Jail now has more than 300 total COVID-19 cases between inmates and employees. These numbers coming from the Texas Commission on Jail Standards. 274 of those, 300 are inmates, and 29 correctional officers are fighting the virus. We do know there are no COVID-19 related deaths at the jail. According to the Taylor County Emergency Management Coordinator, officers will not be jailing people who have warrants for minor charges. Warrants for major violations will still be jailed.
The coronavirus crisis has taken another staggering turn for the worse. More than 77,000 new cases were reported yesterday. That beats the old one-day record by nearly 10,000. The daily death toll it's rising to is more than 900, including a record number 156. That was in Florida.
Meanwhile, the national debate over wearing masks is intensifying as large parts of the economy remain at a standstill. Our lead national correspondent, David Begnaud, is at the port of Miami, where cruise ships are staying at the dock for now. David, for how much longer?
Through September 30th, Anthony, the CDC is the one that issued a no-sale order. Look, you mentioned the mask. I have to tell you, from being here for the last 2 or 3 weeks, there's a lot of people walking around here that are not wearing masks. And in talking to business owners and political leaders, a lot of them are asking each other the same question. Are we going to go through another shutdown? Listen to the mayor of Miami.
I also want to stress to them the severity and the seriousness that we find ourselves in.
The mayor of Miami, Francis Suarez, says he's meeting with business leaders today to talk about the possibility of shutting down again.
We're not sure exactly if there are any tools left in the toolkit, frankly.
His neighbor to the east, Miami Beach Mayor Dan Gelber, says avoiding another lockdown depends on the actions of all Miami-Dade County residents.
If people don't wear masks, the decision's going to be made for all of us, because the trajectory we've been going on for the last couple of weeks is unsustainable.
Florida does not have a statewide mask mandate, and there's still intense resistance to masks. Look at these images from a Royal Palm Beach Walmart. The Palm Beach County Sheriff's Department says this man, seen pushing an elderly man in a wheelchair, pulled a gun on another shopper after a confrontation that happened over masks. In Utah, there was a county meeting about masks for school children that was adjourned early because the meeting itself was in violation of health guidelines.
This is the exact opposite of what we need to be doing. We are supposed to be physically distancing.
wearing masks.
The governors of Arkansas and Colorado announced mask mandates of their own Thursday. They're now required in at least 30 states. Meanwhile, CVS and Target join the growing list of companies moving forward with mask mandates for all customers.
We want to begin with new information about COVID-19. There are 4 new major developments regarding the science of coronavirus, and I want to break this down for you because this is really important stuff. Number one, remember how we were told that COVID-19 was essentially a respiratory disease, right, that primarily attacked and targeted our lungs? It appears that is not the case now. You see, this is new information. COVID-19 turns out to actually be more of a vascular disease that attaches to blood vessels and causes blood clots. That means it's not confined to the lungs, but rather to any organ, which is why people can die of kidney disease or heart disease or stroke, etc. In fact, in autopsies, when they started looking at all the COVID-19 patients who obviously had died, they found thousands and thousands in their bodies of little blood clots that are caused by this COVID-19 virus.
At this time, if everyone would please stand, I know the scientists and the gods of this world don't have the answers, but at this time I would like to introduce the only person on the face of this earth with the answers, the greatest teacher in the world, the great Kahan Yezreel, Abel Hawkins.
Wow, we got a crowd today. This is beautiful, Yahweh. Praise Yahweh. We're all yours, Father. Please be seated. And thank you for that last horn blow there. That was great. The news is great. If you look at it like this, had a dream last night. I woke up at 4 this morning, and I guess I went to bed thinking about troubles that we're having and guiding our people, and not enough time of study and where they can really understand it all, and somewhat concerned about it. But this morning, when I woke up, I had this dream where like everyone was resurrected, and I saw fallaways, and I was dealing with them, running races with them. Very joyous to see everyone, which tells me, Yahweh is in full control. He knows what he's doing. He's taking us through hard times. He's letting us make our choices because he's got to prove us before heaven and earth. Everyone, they've got to be proven. This U.S. breaking records for the coronavirus cases with over 77,000 in one day. That's taken a big number from our people. Now, know this for sure, the coronavirus does not kill. It doesn't kill anyone. The scientists agree with that now. We told them that in the very first sermon, by the way. a few months ago, and some recent ones in the last few weeks or months. So, but they're just now finding out, as you saw the last report there, they're admitting they know absolutely nothing about this. They are saying now it's vascular, they think, instead of respiratory. But they are admitting that it came from the blood. This is coming from the blood. That was one of the first things we brought out here to the house of Yahweh, that's where it started. In fact, it started with Cain. Yes, it reaches all the way back to that. I could cover all of that today, but I can't. Not enough time. We'll have enough time. I know this, but you need to be prepared to take notes. It would be a great thing if you'd get the book, The Mark of the Beast, because the mark that started with Cain, the blood poisoning of the blood by eating the wrong kind of food and too much of the healthy foods, too much else, you can overeat. They say the best way to measure your meat, your red meat, is not eat more than a piece as large as the palm of your hand at a meal. I myself have eaten, at one time I would eat maybe 4 times that much. But yes, eating too much, see, red meat makes you aggressive. That's the reason the armed forces feed it to their forces, to make them aggressive, to fight the enemy. Makes them aggressive. If you overeat, of course, you got the ragweed, the careless wheat, which people want to refuse. They're not used to it here. So we're trying to educate everyone in eating the careless weed. The careless weed will keep you from getting aggressive if you eat too much red meat. Yahweh has an antidote for everything. If we could just, yes, if we could just believe the scriptures. And to believe the scriptures, though, you've got to write them down. You've got to study them, restudy them. Don't waste your time. Don't waste any time. If you got a few minutes, keep something handy in your pocket to read. If you got time to sit down, it takes no effort to pull that out and read it. Something you wrote down, refresh your memory with it. You can save a lot of time just by doing what you're asked to do in the house of Yahweh. The house of Yahweh is the place, the one and only place, your Savior said, that you can receive the blessings of Yahweh. Now, he said, no one is going to see me until you say with all your heart, blessed is he who comes in the name of Yahweh. Praise Yahweh. Now, of course, they removed the name Yahweh and put the Lord. The Lord comes from dead rabbis. Yes, you're worshiping dead rabbis when you worship the Lord. You can find these things in a Webster's dictionary. They're everywhere now, along with the name Yahweh. Well, the coronavirus does not kill. Science is now admitting that. It says American coronavirus cases have taken turn for the worst. More than 77,000 new cases were reported Thursday, beating the old single-day record by nearly 10,000. The daily death toll is more than 900, including a record 156 in Florida. You preachers, Yahweh is telling you to let my people go. And I know you think that, well, if you start preaching this great news, the great news is it's going to be over very soon. And if you don't take this opportunity right now to start teaching your flock, you know, if you just study this just a little bit, even you got to admit that Yahweh is true, and everything that's being taught out here in the world comes from Rome. That's the world's greatest teacher right now, and which started, by the way, with Cain. Cain was the first God worshiper, the first teacher of God worship, the first teacher of God worship. He poisoned the blood, and that blood has it's named coronavirus. Yes, since the days of Cain, it's given that name in Genesis. I'll cover all this as we go, but get the points and get the explanation. Read it in your own scriptures as you have time, and let it be a part of your memory, so that the next time you read something that applies to this, then you can jot that down too, and this will make sense if you have the first part, the previous part. But you preachers, I know you're afraid of losing your flocks. You need not worry. No one can even enter the house of Yahweh until this 7 last plagues is over. You know why? They've got to prove themselves. Everyone who gets into the house of Yahweh must prove themselves. They can't, right now, they're being proven by heaven and earth. Yahweh